when I started the program in December, I had got tested for calprotectin about a month before I started the program. And at that time, my calprotectin was 611.
Mm.
So, for those of you who don't know, the normal value for calprotectin is less than 50, and mine was at 611. And I remember around month 3 or 4, I went to get a stool test from my doctor and get the CRP and SED rate tested just to see where things were at with my Crohn's. And I remember opening the test result, and I remember this was like late March, and my calprotectin was at 11.
Mm.
So in 4 months of doing the program, my inflammation level had gone from 611 to 11. This really is a personal journey that you have to do for yourself. No one else can do it for you. So I had to make those choices that I'm going to do this and do my best at it. And so the first few weeks, I'd say, were tough. So I was doing juicing every day for about 4 months. So I'd wake up and do apple celery juice. And then I'd make a big smoothie with like 5 bananas, mangoes, dates. When you're healing, it's really important that you get calories in. And so
Mm.
I'd make like 800, 900,000 calorie smoothies. And that was really helpful, just because I knew I was getting the calories that I needed as well as nourishing my body. I think that something happened like a month and a half in where I just kind of became natural. Like I started to really, really love my baked potatoes and my bananas. Like I still, even though I feel great, like I'll still just put 8 potatoes in the oven and like eat them with a little bit of like avocado. And that is fine with me. I love that. I love the healing diet food so much. Like people like laugh at me because they come to my house and they're like, I've never seen so many bananas in my life. I have like a whole table full. But I love it. And I think that I just made it work for me. And sometimes I think that I really just rediscovered my love for fruit and how healing and nourishing and delicious fruit is and how good it feels in my digestion. I think after a while it just became it's a habit, right? Like it takes time to form new habits, and there's some growing pains in the initial stages of habit formation, and there were definitely a lot of growing pains. It's hard to not be able to eat dinner with my partner and have that connection. But then she would start eating my potatoes with me and just like adding some other things. Yeah. And I just want to share for those of you who are maybe questioning whether you would want to do something like this, how incredible of a coach Shamise is. I mean, I am so grateful for the opportunity to work with someone who has been through the journey. And I think that knowing that is what really brought my heart a lot of peace and comfort every week, because I saw what you had been through and your trajectory and where you're at now. And to have you remind me to be patient and to remind me that it's a process. I think there was a deep trust there that was developed because I knew that you had been on that journey too. And I just want to thank you so much for all the support that you provided and sitting with me every week and really listening and helping me alter my plan based on like what was best for me and what I needed for that week. What this program really highlighted for me was how important it is to take care of our bodies. It's so important, and food matters. I almost want to cry talking about it, but food matters. What you put in your body matters. And what you put on your body consistently over time matters. I believe with Crohn's and colitis and most digestive issues that we can heal with a change in our food intake and our lifestyle and our mind. And I really have learned the importance of taking care of myself in that way. Yeah, it feels really, really strong for me. I think it's really disheartening in most of the medical world that they don't tell us. Most of the times when we go to the gastroenterologist, they don't tell us about diet. They don't acknowledge diet. And I don't want to say for all, because there are some great gastroenterologists out there, but I can say that for many of us that have Crohn's and colitis, we're not really given any other options outside of medication. And I don't think that medication is bad or wrong, but it is disappointing to me that in the medical world, diet isn't acknowledged as it should be.
Give this video a thumbs up if you know what it's like to have colitis or Crohn's disease, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. This channel was about helping people recover from colitis and Crohn's disease. If you go to our website and fill out the health survey, you are entitled to a free 30-minute consult from anywhere in the world. We look forward to hearing from you. And always remember, there is a life after colitis and Crohn's. Hey guys, we have another testimonial today, and I'm super excited to share Sarah's journey on how she's been able to heal her Crohn's disease through a plant-based diet. And I'm really excited because she has an amazing story of recovery. So let's start with Sarah talking about her journey before, what her life was like before. And you know the drill, we'll kind of go through lots of things about her journey and then end up with telling us how she feels now and how amazing her life is. And it's so cool to be able to share your story, because I think you have a lot to say. And I'm sure there's women out there that have been in the same position as you. So really talk to them about what you went through and how you went through it, and how this lifestyle change has been for you. So let's start with your story and just explain to everybody who you are and where you're from, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Amise. I'm really happy to be here and share my story. My name is Sarah, and I'm 32 years old, and I'm currently living in Fort Collins, Colorado. And to share a bit about what my life was like before this program. So I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease in November of 2021, but I had been having symptoms and flare-ups for years and years before that. It was just never diagnosed. I'd have, like, since I was 22, so maybe for a 10-year stretch, maybe once or twice a year, I'd get these 2 to 3 month periods of flare-ups that were extremely distressing. I would have lack of appetite, nausea, loose stools, feeling like I couldn't digest anything, anxiety, fatigue, and overall just really, really low energy. So I was getting these flare-ups on and off over the course of 10 years or so. And then in March of 2020, I came down with COVID and entered a really bad flare up the summer after I had COVID, and pretty much could not get out of it for almost 2 years. I was experiencing daily nausea, stomach pain, cramps. I couldn't digest anything. And I was also having these really severe vomiting episodes in conjunction with all of that. So once every 2 to 3 months, I'd have this cyclical vomiting syndrome where I would get really, really nauseated. It was so strange. The episodes would start at the same time and end at the same time every 2 months, like on the dot. So, for example, at 5 p.m., I'd start getting violently nauseous, and then that would build up until about 9 or 10. And then I would start vomiting until about 3 or 4 in the morning.
Wow.
And
what was so in terms of, let's just go back to diet as well, like during that period, was there anything that you changed during that period of time where you were feeling sick? And did the doctor mention anything about diet at all?
so the doctor did not mention anything about diet, but honestly, it had taken me about a year and a half to acknowledge that it was time to go to the doctor. I think for a long time I was in denial. I
Mm,
think deep down I knew that I had Crohn's disease. It does run in my family, and I had all of the symptoms, but there is a fear. There is
mm,
almost a fear of knowledge of and then my partner so eloquently reminded me that knowledge is power. So go do all the testing. Go to the doctor and do extensive testing and really get to the bottom of what's wrong with you, and then we can go from there. And so in the meantime of that year and a half that I hadn't seen the doctor, I tried a few different things. And I was doing a lot of juicing and a lot of celery juice. I looked into medical medium protocols, but these things would work for a couple of weeks. Like maybe I'd have a 2 or 3 week span where I felt better, but then I would go back into the nausea and the symptoms. And then when I had decided to go to a doctor and get the colonoscopy and the endoscopy and all of the testing, um, I came across David Klein's book, Self Healing Crohn's and Colitis. And in the meantime, when I was doing all these tests, I tried to start implementing his program because he does have a really wonderful book with an excellent program that I think is really effective. But I wasn't able to implement it on my own because it's quite strict.
mm.
If you've ever come across the book and read it and tried to implement it, it can be very difficult, especially on my own. Um, I have to say I was eating a pretty healthy vegan diet. Um, I always strive to eat healthy, but I guess it just wasn't enough. I needed to do deeper layers of elimination and healing in order for my body to balance and get better. And so I had actually come across high carb health. I think on Amazon, I was looking at reviews for David Klein's book, and I came across a review that said something like, work with, if you want to go deeper into this protocol, I highly suggest high carb health.
Mm.
And so, of course, I go on the internet and I look up high carb health and I find Chemise and decide to have a consultation call to understand a bit more about the program. And this is all happening in tandem to my diagnosis. So I think I was diagnosed in late November, and like by early December, I was ready to roll. I'm like, let's go. Like, Chemise, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to jump in and hit the ground running.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, that first consultation is always one to, I always remember that actually, because you guys that talk to me are so willing to do whatever it takes. And for me, it's almost like, yes, let's do it together. And there's so much hope for people out there because of people like you sharing your story that this is where you are now. It's amazing. And here we are doing a testimonial, and we worked together for 6 months, and that was a while ago. And you're here sharing this amazing story of you regaining your health. So it's amazing. And so after the first consultation, what sort of triggered you to get onto this and start doing it? Because it is hard for some people. That what do I do? Are these guys legit? Or how did you feel when you spoke to me, and sort of what made you sort of join and want to do this for yourself?
Honestly, Shamiz, you're just seeing your story and where you came from and where you are now was so inspiring alongside all of the testimonials. I think I spent hours and hours on YouTube watching all of these testimonials, just so honored to be able to listen to other people's stories of healing and growth. And I just felt intuitively that it was the right thing, like immediately. And it was just, for me, I think the issue with not being able to implement the protocol from David Klein's book was because I needed accountability and I needed a bit more of a structure. I needed someone to hold me accountable and kind of hold that space and walk me through this journey step by step, week by week as I went along. There's something about having the consistency of a support system and a touch point week by week, even if nothing changes that radically week by week, um, we still make that connection, and it allows me to continue on my journey with faith, with trust, with hope, and with my end goal in mind.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was actually on that sort of weekly consults, it was actually so fun working with you because you just started to understand everything. And I think we'll get on to that soon. But, one thing I like to make clear is that if you commit and if you have the right attitude towards healing, there's nothing stopping you, right? And I think you had this idea of, I need to get better and I will get better. Obviously, it takes time and patience, but as you started to, go through this program, you blossomed, and this is why we're here. So it's really great to see that. And there were some hard times, there was definitely some hard times, and let's kind of talk about that. And I guess the mindset too. So let's sort of work on that aspect as well, and how we had this fear of, oh, is this going to come back, or what's going to happen next? So let's dive a little bit deeper into that. So let's go towards, after you found us, and how did you find your body? How did it respond, etc.
Yeah, definitely. So this definitely was a very challenging time. And it was challenging physically, it was challenging emotionally, it was challenging mentally. And I definitely did have some rough times in our sessions. And I think what really got me through it was staying connected to my why. So,
Mm.
why am I doing this? I want to heal. I want to feel better. And I know that by changing my diet and my lifestyle and working with my mind, that I believe that I can heal. And I think that we're all different and we all need to really listen to our bodies and our hearts to understand the right paths to take. For me, in life, I have a history of anxiety and intrusive thoughts and worrying and all of that fun stuff. And so some of the challenges during this program for me were there was a lot of doubt, a lot of self-doubt. Is this going to work? Am I going to heal? Why am I not feeling great after a month yet? And there's a lot of ups and downs with the healing journey. And this is one thing that I learned really strongly in this program is that healing is not like this.
Mm.
Healing sometimes looks like this. And my issue is whenever I'd go in the down, I would beat myself up. I would get anxious. I'd say, hey, I was feeling great yesterday. What did I do? I'd start analyzing everything I ate, and I'd just go into this spiral that was really harmful for my mental health and for my progress. And I'd say my mind was the biggest challenge of this whole program. And I worked very closely with a therapist. I was in a women's group. Like I said before, I think that everyone has to do what's right for them to heal. I am not opposed to Western medicine. I think that for my Crohn's, intuitively, I knew that I did take some budesonide for the first month or so. I don't really think it did that much, but I do take a little bit of anxiety medication, and that has helped me immensely. It really just helped bring my mental health into balance so that my body could actually have the space to heal. So I think that
Absolutely.
it's about being open to the different options available to us, seeking help when we need it, and really, really recognizing that mental health is such a big piece of autoimmune diseases, especially with diseases like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. Stress can have a major, major impact on inflammation.
Absolutely. I think it's not being talked about that often when it comes to these conditions and how influential it is when you're going through this and you literally put yourself down because you then, I did the same thing. I got very depressed because life just wasn't working for me and I just got so frustrated and fed up at myself that it was so hard to push through that process of no, I can do this and changing that mindset to be in a champion mindset instead of victimizing yourself all the time. And I think that was a key part to changing how you saw this journey as well, and how this shouldn't be a burden on you. We create that burden within ourselves. And I did the same thing as so many others may also do, is that you self-sabotage yourself. And that's probably one of the worst things that you can do going through this transformation, because it happens automatically, and no one else can tell you otherwise. Like even myself, like as a coach, luckily I have the experience of doing the same things as you potentially did. But even my words, may not influence you, or they might in slightly in a way, but your ability to get yourself out of that is so important, and you have to be super strong to do that. And I congratulate you because, you did talk to me about so many of those things coming up, those negative emotions, negative thoughts, and that self-doubt that you had, but you slowly then got out of it yourself. And there were times when we would have meetings and you'd be really down and, crying and feeling so low. And then by the end of it, you'd be smiling. And that to me was like, wow, okay, like whatever I've said to you has done something. And that happened, that kept happening. I remember those times where we were speaking to each other, and then you'd feel so much better about, or you'd release something that was on your mind, just having someone to talk to about something, releasing that thought. And you slowly understood that, why am I doing this to myself when I don't need to? That was so significant, I think, in your journey. And I to see you go through that process and just be yourself and not let that other part of your mind get to you and influence you during that process was pretty amazing. And you have to, I've got to give you got to give yourself a pat on the back for that, because it was, yeah, like it's not easy to do that for a lot of people, to get out of that mindset that's constantly like telling you you're not good enough and this and that and all sorts of things. So yeah, like it was amazing. And then week by week, I'd see one week you'd be like, okay, like things are going okay. And then next week you'd be like, I had 2 awesome days for me. And I'm like, yes, come on, like let's do this. And I think that's just the transformation that happened within you, because you started to see the body change. Once you saw the body change, it was easier for you to uh, give yourself that self-respect as well, and give yourself that ability to go, no, my body is doing the right thing and it's helping me, and
Mm.
that's amazing. And I mean, I guess, yeah, share your experience of those times, and when the nausea and stuff started to go away, because you had it, it wasn't that nice to go experience that. And I think if someone who has Crohn's disease, if you're watching, everybody goes through that nausea phase, and it's not comfortable. But when it goes away, that's when you can really like drive that message forward to your body that, hey, come on, cells, or come on, healing, like your self-healing body, you're doing this.
Definitely. And I think that's when things started to change for me, is when I started to experience just minor wins, right? So
Mm.
like, okay, like us Crohn's and colitis warriors, we talk about stool a lot. Okay. So like a little win for us is like, okay, my stool's a little more formed, or I have more energy today, or my appetite's coming back. And like I said, for me personally, it's different for everyone. It took about 4 months to start having more consistent periods of wellness. So month one, not so great. Month two, not so great. Okay, month 2.5. All right. That's different. I kind of feel a little bit different. Kind of going along. Month three, okay. Then I kind of hit a plateau. And then month four was like, whoa, okay, something happened. And I also want to note that when I started the program in December, I had got tested for calprotectin about a month before I started the program. And at that time, my calprotectin was 611.
Mm.
So, for those of you who don't know, the normal value for calprotectin is less than 50, and mine was at 611. And I remember around month 3 or 4, I went to get a stool test from my doctor and get the CRP and SED rate tested just to see where things were at with my Crohn's. And I remember opening the test result, and I remember this was like late March, and my calprotectin was at 11.
Mm.
So in 4 months of doing the program, my inflammation level had gone from 611 to 11. And that was when I think that's when things really locked in, and I was able to really, and I was also feeling better at that point. I'm
Mm.
like, okay, I think this test is going to be okay, because when I took it in October, November, I was sick. I knew that something was wrong, but I had a good feeling. And from that place onwards, I was really able to start feeling more of that confidence, because I had results that whatever I was doing was working. The diet, the mind work, and the lifestyle changes, something's working here. And I think that was a really big win. And then I got it tested again in the summer, and it was at 6, from 11 to 6. So that was another win for me. And yeah, I think that it took a while, and I think that I really had to trust in the process and trust myself, especially during those low moments, because I had quite a few of them,
Mm.
to trust that it's going to get better. This doesn't mean anything about you. You didn't screw up, Sarah. Like, it's okay. Maybe you did eat something that you shouldn't have, but it's okay. Like, I'm sticking to the diet most of the time, and as close to 100% as I can. It definitely wasn't, but I think it's about so much more than just diet and lifestyle. It really can be a spiritual awakening. It can be a really deep invitation for, I guess I should speak in first person. It's been a really deep invitation for me to get in touch with my soul, and like learning how to have compassion for myself, learning self-compassion,
Mm.
giving myself grace and patience and consistency. And like, you can really go down the rabbit hole here with your spiritual work. Like, if you start paying attention to your thoughts, you can see that your thoughts actually aren't you. And you can kind of start to detach from them and have some space from them and start to choose different thoughts. And this is an ongoing process. I think the healing journey, the spiritual journey, is ongoing for the rest of our lives. And so it's definitely something that sparked that, more so for me. And it's been something that I'm still working on. And it's been a really deep treasure from the program to really learn self-compassion and to practice self-compassion.
100%. 100%. And there's also another word that I was just going to say to you, and that's acceptance. And accepting that your body is doing this for you, and realizing that this is what needs to be done, and whatever stage your body's at, just accept it. Even if it goes through those lows, just accept it for what it is. It's always trying to help you. It's never going against itself. And trusting and believing, and that really helps so much when you're going through this. And then when you have those good days, you go, right, I just know that this is the right thing that I'm doing to myself. And it's self-evident. That's the main thing here. It's self-evident, and once you start to see the body change, it becomes easier and easier and easier. And all those thoughts and feelings, they just sort of die off, and slowly you get more confidence in yourself, and here you are now, which is amazing. And I think let's also just touch on the food aspect now.
Mhm.
Sarah was so diligent with her food, and she knew what she needed to do, and that was sort of something that allowed her to relax. And I think I mentioned to you as well that don't be so hard on yourself if you do eat something that you shouldn't. Like, add something else to give you a little bit more pleasure and that flexibility, so that you don't get bored and get sick of the food that you're eating. Because that's something that I found, that it was really hard for me to keep eating the same thing. And while I did have to eat that, I found that by speaking to you and talking to you about being a little bit more flexible, almost change the whole game with how people interact with food and how you enjoy it more. And like I said before, it's not a burden to do this, because you start looking at food as nourishment and fuel to do the healing work that's necessary. Once you start to get into that mindset, it becomes easier, and then you want to actually eat more of that food to put inside of you, because then you start feeling the changes more significantly. And yeah, so I guess, did you find it hard with the food? I guess, what was the hardest part about the food aspect? What was the easiest part? And go through that.
Yeah, so just to give a little background, I was already vegan. And so I think for me, I kind of just jumped into the healing diet because I feel like I had been doing the transition diet a bit before I had jumped into the program. And it definitely was hard for the first few weeks to establish a routine. And I think that food, there's so much nuance to food, right? Like there's so much of our culture and our socialization is wrapped up in food. We go out to eat with friends, we eat with our partner at home, we use food to celebrate, and there's a lot of cultural significance around it as well. We use it as ways to connect with our families and to enjoy a good meal together. So I think initially it felt lonely
Mm.
because this really is a personal journey that you have to do for yourself. No one else can do it for you. So I had to make those choices that I'm going to do this and do my best at it. And so the first few weeks, I'd say, were tough. So I was doing juicing every day for about 4 months. So I'd wake up and do apple celery juice. And then I'd make a big smoothie with like 5 bananas, mangoes, dates. When you're healing, it's really important that you get calories in. And so
Mm.
I'd make like 800, 900,000 calorie smoothies. And that was really helpful, just because I knew I was getting the calories that I needed as well as nourishing my body.
Yep, very
And
important.
then, yeah, I think that something happened like a month and a half in where I just kind of became natural. Like I started to really, really love my baked potatoes and my bananas. Like I still, even though I feel great, like I'll still just put 8 potatoes in the oven and like eat them with a little bit of like avocado. And that is fine with me. I love that. I love the healing diet food so much. Like people like laugh at me because they come to my house and they're like, I've never seen so many bananas in my whole life. I have like a whole table full. But I love it. And I think that I just made it work for me. And sometimes I think that I really just rediscovered my love for fruit and how healing and nourishing and delicious fruit is and how good it feels in my digestion. So honestly, sometimes I just do fruit all day and then I'd have a cooked soup for dinner or some steamed veggies and a soup, some potatoes, things like that. But I think after a while, it just became it's a habit, right? Like it takes time to form new habits. And there's some growing pains in the initial stages of habit formation. And there were definitely a lot of growing pains. It was hard to not be able to eat dinner with my partner and have that connection. But then she would start eating my potatoes with me and just like adding some other things. But Shamizi really helped me stretch. I have a tendency to be a bit rigid. Like if I step outside of the box a little bit, I might beat myself up or
Mm.
self-sabotage. And so if I really wanted to stick to this diet like 100%, like I didn't want to stray. Obviously that is impossible for me. Like I couldn't stick to it 100%. I did my best and left the rest and trusted in my body and it all worked out. But by stray, I honestly didn't stray towards anything too crazy. Like I'd have a little tofu or rice, but like I didn't have gluten. Like I just cut out all the bad things, oils, and tried to do my best with that for like 6 months.
Yeah, and you did the best you could, and that's what we have to
Mm-hmm.
always recognize here, that you cannot be perfect in an imperfect world, and the idea that you have to do this, while it is good, it's a good structure. The mindset and the emotional aspects to food are something that needs to be looked at, because if you don't address those issues about cravings and things, you're going to find yourself doing things that you shouldn't, even more so. And allowing yourself a little bit of flexibility sort of allows those cravings to not be so bad. And therefore, you won't feel guilty about eating something, because you know that, okay, well, it's not as bad as something that I could have probably eaten. It's the lesser of two evils. And I think also just approaching life in the same way as, whatever you do, don't like give yourself that flexibility. Don't have to be so rigid, but be rigid in the way that you can be rigid, in the best way you can do what you need to. And I think that's pretty key. And it's amazing though, once you start to sort of expand, and I think you're getting to that stage now. It's just you're waiting for my recipe book, aren't you? And
Hurry up.
so,
Yeah.
so like even though you have explored and eaten out in restaurants and stuff, I mean, you know, day to day is what you're looking for, and that's what obviously we're creating this for, so that people that are out of healing, what can you eat? What can you eat? And I guess from my experience and from my cooking, this is what I'll be sharing, and hopefully that comes out. Definitely, I'm going to say in the next couple of months it should be out, because I'm working on some recipes right now as I'm back home in New Zealand with my family, and we're going to be cooking all sorts of oil-free Indian vegan food, which is so tasty. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know exactly what I've been eating and have.
I know. I follow you. I follow Shamiz on Instagram and I try to replicate his little stews and curries and recipes, but it doesn't turn out as good. And I'm always looking like, what is he making today? Like, how can I figure this out? So it'll be nice to have a recipe book with some steps. Really excited. Put me down for number one on the wait
Oh,
list.
absolutely, absolutely. You'll get it first. As soon as it's done, it'll be on your inbox, Sarah. So,
Yeah. And I just want to share. for those of you who are maybe questioning whether you would want to do something like this, how incredible of a coach Shamise is. I mean, I am so grateful for the opportunity to work with someone who has been through the journey. And I think that knowing that is what really brought my heart a lot of peace and comfort every week, because I saw what you had been through and your trajectory and where you're at now. And to have you remind me to be patient and to remind me that it's a process. I think there was a deep trust there that was developed because I knew that you had been on that journey too. And I just want to thank you so much for all the support that you provided and sitting with me every week and really listening and helping me alter my plan based on like what was best for me and what I needed for that week. And I just feel so grateful to have had someone to guide me along this journey and hold me accountable. And I appreciate that you weren't rigid, but you held a strong space for keeping to the plan, right? So you're not going to be like, "Oh, Sarah, go have a whatever." Like, there's nothing wrong with a vegan burrito, but like on the healing diet for the first 3 months, like I probably shouldn't have had that. So you really ensured that I stuck to the program as much as I could without being rigid while allowing that flexibility. So
Yeah.
just want to say
You're
thank
absolutely
you.
welcome. You're absolutely welcome. And it's just to see you go through what you went through and to see you transform. And I think, one of the things that I remember is when you started playing pickleball. And I didn't really know what pickleball was because it's not really a thing down under in New Zealand or Australia. So I was like, what are you talking about? Is this the thing where you like just hit something, it goes round? And I was like, what is this pickleball? So then obviously I had to research it and I was like, it's just like tennis, but in the smaller section. And I'm like, this is so cool. And like I play tennis as well. I'm a big fan of tennis too. And when you were able to get back onto the court and just have a game, I think that's something that was super influential for you. And like, talk about that experience of, coming out of sort of the body allowing you to do that and how it felt, and obviously then progressing to playing more and doing things. Yeah, how did that go?
Yeah. So at the beginning of the program, during this program, I wasn't, I don't want to say I wasn't supposed to, but I chose not to exercise a lot because I was already in a weaker, more feeble state, and I didn't want to tax the body too much. And so I really just stuck to walks and maybe some gentle stretching and things like that. But I love pickleball. My partner and I play together. If you haven't played, it's the fastest, I think it's like the fastest growing sport in the US. Hopefully it'll hit Australia soon. But it's just so fun and social. And it's one of those activities that puts me in a flow state, flow, like things that empty your mind. Like you're just so focused on the activity at hand that you're not having thoughts. And for me, that's what pickleball is. And for a while before I was diagnosed and before I started my healing diet program, I would go play pickleball. And after like 20 or 30 minutes, I would get so nauseous and feel like I'd have to vomit. And it was really, really distressing because we'd set up a game with a few people and then all of a sudden I couldn't show up because I was sick. And it just became this consistent occurrence where I just couldn't do the things that I wanted to do. And even exercising would feel difficult. I would feel sick. I honestly did not have an appetite for many, many months and lost a significant amount of weight. And it was hard. And then throughout the program, I started to get my energy back. And around month 3 or 4, I started playing again and slowly getting back into it. And now I just played yesterday. We played for like over 2 hours and I was fine. I don't have nausea. I have the strength and the ability to play and stay in the game. And there's just so much gratitude that comes out of this. And it really just breeds a really great appreciation for feeling good and to be grateful for those moments because I'm sure in the future I'll have moments where I don't feel good. Maybe I'll have some time where my stomach doesn't feel good and to remember that I have the tools to come back to what I know, to rebalance my body and to be grateful for the good days.
Absolutely. And when you start to actually start loving what you're doing with with life in general, that's when you know you've cracked it, and just everything just goes into that flow state. Just you receive whatever you need to receive, and it's almost like that sonar where you're sort of pushing out good things in your mind, and your mindset is really good energy. You're putting that out there, and what are you going to receive when that happens? Good energy back, and it's just that's how life should be played. And we make it hard for ourselves, like you said, and like I said before. And if we have this good, we're radiating this good energy, you're just going to feel so good, and it just life becomes easy. And that's something that a lot of people find it hard to get into that state because of so many distractions, so many people saying this and saying that. And when you start to actually are able to focus on yourself, that's when things start to then unfold, and you start to see your body and your mind and everything change because um, you start loving yourself. Like there's so much to that. That's a whole nother hour of talking about how we focus on that aspect of loving yourself and things like that, and how important that is to do, because when we're always in that self-sabotage mode, we're not loving ourselves, we're not appreciating what our body can do. So in the appreciation, the gratitude of going out there and being able to do this without any physical symptoms is what then we feel so grateful for, and we are so happy about how our body is working. And that's what I find these days with myself, with my training as well, and the running that I do and the cycling that I do. It comes so naturally now because of what I'm feeding myself and what I'm maintaining, or what fuel I put in my body to maintain this physical body, and how my body is not with any dis-ease, and that's where you need to. And it's not for people that have colitis or Crohn's disease, it's for everybody. Like you don't want to end up with a condition, so eat well to prevent yourself from getting that condition. And for us to be able to reverse that and heal that, it's like it's amazing. It's even more like, wow, like how'd you do that? But it can be done if you want it. And you're a good example of that process where you really dug deep. You dug deep and you found yourself through this whole journey, and you'll keep continuing to do what you need to for yourself. And that's, you take the blueprint and then you adapt certain things. You take things outside of the blueprint, you put them into the blueprint, you make it all work, because I've said this before, like your life is not going to be the same as me, and so it's not about eating what I'm eating, or living the life that I'm living, because we can't. We're different people. But if we have this idea of, okay, what can I stick to that's going to allow me to be in a good space 24/7, and or to the best of my ability, so that I can stay in this state of health, we do that. And then we have that flexibility. It's the 80/20, right? Like you give yourself the best, and then you also give yourself mentally, you give yourself something that's going to allow you to then, and it may not be just food that does that. It can be, yeah, like sport, or everything should be enhancing your life, whatever you do. Don't
Mm.
Don't make it worse for yourself. Like, lift yourself and do what really makes you happy and you love to do. And that's what I do, and that's what you're doing right now, and you'll keep
Yeah,
feeling like this.
absolutely. And I just want to reflect on what you're sharing about really knowing what to feed ourselves. And that's really like knowing how to love ourselves. Like we have one, well, in this form, we have one precious life. We have one precious life right now. And I think what this program really highlighted for me was how important it is to take care of our bodies. It's so important, and food matters. I almost want to cry talking about it, but food matters. What you put in your body matters. And what you put on your body consistently over time matters.
Mm.
And we can heal. I don't believe I don't know if we can heal everything. And I believe with Crohn's and colitis and most digestive issues that we can heal with a change in our food intake and our lifestyle and our mind. And I really have learned the importance of taking care of myself in that way and to feed myself the foods that are going to make me feel good, that are going to allow me to do what I want in this world, to show up in a good way, to have the energy and the freedom to move about and make an impact on those around me. And I have so much to say about it, but it's empowering to know that we can do this work on ourselves and that there are tools and resources available to help us be healthier and to help us heal. And yeah, it feels really, really strong for me. I think it's really disheartening in most of the medical world that they don't tell us. Most of the times when we go to the gastroenterologist, they don't tell us about diet. They don't acknowledge diet. And I don't want to say for all because there are some great gastroenterologists out there, but I can say that for many of us that have Crohn's and colitis, we're not really given any other options outside of medication. And I don't think that medication is bad or wrong. And let's get to the root, right? Let's get to the root cause of what's going on with our bodies. And I think that when we really can address that, we can really understand how to heal ourselves. But it is disappointing to me that in the medical world, diet isn't acknowledged as it should be.
Yep. I agree. I agree. And I think your speaking out about it is going to potentially influence that change, because we need to start speaking out about how we can make this change and how we can start to inform people that are struggling and suffering from these conditions, like you and I suffered. We suffered because we didn't know. And like how your partner said, knowledge is power. And knowing what we know now, you know, if I had to go through what I went through to be in this position that I know now, I would do it because I know how powerful it is and how amazing the body is right now and how it's working and what it's doing because of what I put inside my mouth and how I think. So really appreciate you saying that because a lot of people don't understand that aspect that we don't need to suffer. Yes, it may be a little bit hard to change, but change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. And we don't want to be sick. We don't want to necessarily take medication for the rest of our lives if we don't have to. And why not? Why not change your lifestyle? Why not try and see if this is gonna get you out of that system, which is constantly putting us down, creating that fear, and saying that there is no other option, because
Hmm.
there is, but you're not going to get it from that part of, you know, that part of the system. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, you're defying that. We're not defying it, but you're coming out of that and making it a point to do what you need to for yourself. You're not relying on anyone else. You're not even relying on me, because now you know what you need to do for yourself, and you're not relying on doctors. You're taking ownership, you're taking responsibility, you're taking accountability of your life, and that says something. Crohn's disease does not define you anymore, you know, and that's what we all wish for, but we don't want
Hmm.
to work for it.
Yeah, definitely. I just think it goes back to the why. Like for me, I I had to put my desire to heal over my love for food,
Mm.
straight up, every day. Like I want, and maybe one day I'll be able to eat that food and it's fine. That's not what it's about, but it's about like in those initial phases, there does need to be a lot of structure to give the body space to heal. And yeah, put your desire to feel good, to wake up every day and not have to worry about your stomach, envisioning that, living into that, breathing into that, embodying that, imagining that that is happening now. And I remember those were some of the exercises that we did where to imagine what it was like to feel healed, even when I wasn't, even when I was still nauseous and not hungry and feeling sick. I actually found one of my journal entries from that time the other day and I had forgotten about it, but I was like imagining that I was sitting on this beach healed and I didn't feel any pain or nausea and I was able to go about my day normally and how amazing that felt. And then sure enough, one day it manifested.
Do you
And
want to touch on that journaling aspect? Because I think that's quite an important part of the journey itself, just to talk about, like, I mean, or write down how you're feeling, and then maybe reflect on that at some stage and be like, whoa, I was there, but now I'm not, and I'm here now.
journaling, I feel is so important. I'm not the best journaler. I wish I was someone who wrote a lot. I'd like to think I am, but I'm totally not. That being said, journaling is really important to help us move through certain experiences or emotions or feelings or situations. And it kind of helps us find clarity and forward movement to our current experience. And so I highly recommend keeping a journal and writing about what you're feeling, how you're feeling day to day, and some spiritual experiences you're having, things that you're learning about yourself, things that you want to see from yourself. Because I I believe that our mind holds an immense amount of power in terms of how we feel and what we create in our lives. Like I said, I don't think we can wave a magic wand and heal all the disease and all the woes of the world. But that being said, we can work on our minds and learn how to be with difficult emotions within ourselves to be able to paint like a more holistic picture of ourselves and our own healing. And healing is more, I'm learning this now in one of my classes, but I wish I could remember the exact quote, but it was the difference between curing and healing. like maybe you're still having symptoms, but you could still be healed from something because healing is more than just the body. It's like the healing of the mind and the spirit.
It's a constant healing journey. It's not finished. There's so many things that come to us at certain stages of our lives which we need to deal with. So you just take steps to get to those places that then don't feel like you're going back to square one, because life is full of challenges and you have to adapt. You have to adapt. And what what this initial phase does is it gets you to a point where you're not suffering the way you were before, and then from that point, you take whatever comes and goes and you deal with those, whatever it comes, because it's never going to be always sun and rainbows, but there will be some rain. And when that rain comes, you know that you've got that umbrella that's there for you. And that umbrella is the key. That the initial step is that umbrella, that keeps you dry.
Mm.
And I think it's pretty powerful. I was gonna say like, oh, but do you have any advice to other people? But you've obviously already said so many things. But if you do want to say anything else, or if there's something that's like, that if someone was listening, or if you were listening to this video, what would you say to that person?
I would say stay on course. Like no matter what happens, hold on to the life raft because it will get better and it will get easier. And like there are going to be moments, and I still experience this. Like I'm not perfect, okay? But like one thing I've learned is to stay on course. And there will be moments where my mind wants to pull me off, you know? There will be moments where like maybe I'll just not stick to the program, or is this really not, maybe this isn't working, or I'll start to spiral, but just stick to the program and stay consistent and just trust in what you're doing. And there's nothing to lose. Um, the the diet that you'll be implementing, I think, is one of the safest.
Mm.
I'm not a medical professional, but it's pretty highly anti-inflammatory. And so there's lots of fruits and vegetables and nutrients. And I'd say just to trust the process and just stay on course, stay focused, and just hold on because it's going to get better.
Yep.
Life is
Was
like this sometimes, and we have ups and downs. That's the nature of the human condition. That's the nature of our karma here. And we're not perfect beings, but you can do this.
I really just every time we have a conversation, it's uplifting for me, and it just, it's amazing to connect with you, and your energy. And I can't wait to come visit you one day and play a bit of pickleball. and
Nice.
and it's like I don't know what to say because of what you've been through and how hard you've worked on yourself. It was a while back, it was a while ago that you worked with us, but you wanted to do this testimonial now because you wanted to be ready for it. And I really commend you on doing that, because you now know like everything that has happened from that point onwards, and you know your structure of your life now so much better than you ever did before. So, well done, and thank you so much for sharing your journey with everybody. And thank you so much for working with me. And it's just, it's amazing to see you turn into this amazing flower. And yeah, you're well
Thank
done, like well
you.
done.
Thank you so much for all of your support. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that I found you and had your support and like you're rooting me on. It really was integral to my healing to have that like consistent cheerleader. So thank you so much. And if you're thinking about high carb health, a million out of, yeah, infinity recommended.
Oh, appreciate that. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.